So today I said we were going to talk about advanced modeling, and I sent out an article that was written quite a while ago, by the way. It was by it was on Tony Robbins. I think it's on his website, so I gave full credit. Um, and
Oh,
make sure you mute yourself, by the way. So and he talked about his mentors. This thing was on modeling. And so those are the people, his closest mentors were the people like he modeled, if you will, right? And he mentioned, Jim Rohn, John Grinder, not Richard Bandler. Everybody forgets. I mean, I knew he went to Bandler stuff, but he really was impacted by Grinder. And then the last one was Peter Gruber, who's a Hollywood guy, movie maker. And it's kind of interesting when you look at his models. Jim Rohn, very businesslike, ran seminars. That's where the first part of where Tony learned how to do seminars, right? I mean, if you want to model someone, he had a skill set. He was, he was hanging around with Jim Rohn, and he's an avid reader and studier, and he took classes, and then he got into NLP. But he came into NLP early 80s, about saying a little bit around when I did, a little bit, maybe a year before. But he came in knowing the seminar business. Most of us get into this world having no clue how to run a seminar business. He understood how to run a seminar business. People go, what made him different? Well, he came in thinking like how to run a business, how to do the seminars. And he had a good model. Jim Rohn was the biggest guy in the 70s doing those motivational speakers. And what he brought to the table with the NLP that he got from Grinder and a few others was not just a motivational speech, but some steps to actually implement it. If you listen to I like Jim Rohn's stuff or Zig Ziglar's there, but it's that, I just call it like rah-rah motivational stuff. You need to check out from the neck up. You need to work harder than everybody. You need to do this. No way how to do it. But information. I mean, you go there, you get motivated, right? But they don't teach you the steps to get there. And I heard him speak, God, in the mid 80s, early 80s, when his career was taking off, he said, what the NLP did was give him the framework and simple replicatable steps to implement what the motivational speakers were talking about, right? Which is different. I know down here, I think next week, sometime coming up, they're doing one of those, I don't know, I call them rah-rah seminars, where it's like all these great motivational speakers, and I like some of them, David Goggins is there and a few others, right? But, it's a full day and it's only whatever. And it's like, and they actually call, and I saw it online. I asked a question. So they've actually been calling, and I'm like, I'm really not motivated to go spend $200 to sit in a room with 10,000 other people to hear a 90-minute upsell for what they're offering, right? But that's just my opinion. But anyway, some of their stuff, right? They're just going to it's that motivational, good stuff. Great. But again, what Tony Robbins, from hanging around with Jim Rohn on how to do a seminar, how to structure a seminar, and he brought into NLP something a little different. He took the NLP and he took it in a different direction, because most of us still do this. We teach people how to do NLP and how to become an NLP practitioner, right? That's what we do. If you're going to run a class, we do the work with clients, right? Tony Robbins went, no. Most people walking in the door want to change. They don't want to learn how to do this, right? They have not, that's irrelevant, right? They're coming there, to the Fire Walk or Date with Destiny, whatever program he's doing there, to experience a personal change, right? And it was so he brought that in, right? Where most of us still teach like how to do it. Here's the steps. If you've ever been to a Tony event, and I suggest everybody should go, it's a lot of fun, right? He does it to the group. right? That's what he does, and he has like people running around helping. Most of them are incompetent, but they're there because they get to go to the seminar for free. They don't know how to do, and he doesn't teach the steps, right? But that's okay because look at the results, right? Look at the results. Thousands of people in the room, massive fans and everything else, because that's what people want. And his career really shifted when he started and hanging around with Peter Gruber and took everything from, the analytical business model of Jim Rohn, added the NLP steps. Then he got into what Gruber does, which is storytelling. Everything's a story, right? That's what a movie is. It's a story, a television show, whatever, right? So if you've ever been to a Tony event, it's a lot of stories, right? It's not step one, we do this, step. He might do that a little bit with a couple of things I've been to, but it was mostly he'd tell a story, right? A dramatic story, right? He took, and don't forget, he grew up in Hollywood. So that was his, I think he went to Hollywood High. So, it's a different mindset, different group. It's people in the business and that. So those are the people he modeled, right? And so when you're looking at modeling, when we look at modeling, most of us think about the things that we can do, the techniques or the behaviors, if you will. What behaviors can you add, right? That's what a lot of us will do when you're going to pick a model. Like if you're going to do a new behavior generator, which is supposed to be a modeler, right? Which is watch your movie, watch your model, watch this person, you do what you want to do, give a speech or close more sales, whatever it is. So most of us model a behavior, right? That's what we do. The new behavior generator, Maxwell Maltz, which they got that from Maxwell Maltz Theater of the Mind technique from psycho-cybernetics. It's a behavior, right? And you could do the behavior. Nothing wrong with doing the behavior, right? But if you've ever done that, like a new behavior generator for someone like to eat healthier, right? Okay, see yourself, there's your model, whoever it is, your friend who eats healthy, who's, eats whatever it is, right? Doing that or exercising, right? If maybe you've had this experience, you walk through somebody doing that and they leave there and you ask them in a day or two, maybe the next session in a week, how you doing? I'm doing great, right? They're doing the behavior. But to be honest, does the behavior last? Does the behavior last? Maybe it does, but I've seen it not last very long, right? Because you're doing a behavior without the beliefs and the attitudes, if you want to say that, attitudes, things like that, that drive that behavior. There's a lot of difference between exercising, just going to go exercise to exercise because you're modeling someone that's exercising, and someone's belief that they have to exercise, right? And we don't, generally, most people don't install the beliefs and the attitudes. So if they're going to do like the new behavior generator where you're watching a movie, you see your model up there doing whatever, most trainers to this day don't install the beliefs. What beliefs drive that person? Why, the way we do it at NLP and the people I train is look behind the model, the movie of your model, if we're going to use the new behavior generator. So you're watching the movie, you kind of look through it and you see what attitudes, values, and beliefs is driving that, right? And if they're going to pick a model, that model may tell them what makes them exercise religiously, right? So do you want to adopt those beliefs and those and even values, right? Attitudes, right? You may or may not, right? So you're modeling the behavior, but then you have to break down and add in some of the beliefs. It's a big difference. If you have the beliefs, the behavior will become, I don't say necessarily second nature, but it's it's much more likely you'll do it because that's just who you are. It even goes into your identity, right? And if you know someone who I would call a chronic exerciser, right? I want to say that, like addicted to exercise. And I kind of fall into this one. They exercise no matter where they're at. They'll find a way because it's their belief set, part of who they are. You know, we hear people all the time, and maybe you've had this if you've had weight loss clients. Well, you know, I'm pretty good on working out, but I'm going on vacation, so I know I can't work out. Why not? Right? We have Nadine here. I've heard when I'm in my clinic rocking in Florida there, it was like people go, well, you know, I'm doing good, but, you know, I'm going on a cruise. Yes. Well, you got to, you know, you're going to overeat and you can't exercise on a cruise. Really? I think every big cruise ship has a gym, you know, open 24 hours, a lot of them, you know, and if you choose to, you can eat healthy. You know, my friend came back from a cruise and he was like, I don't know what happened. We gained all this weight. I go, what happened? He goes, well, we go to like an early breakfast, then a brunch, then we go to lunch, then we do the whatever the thing is after lunch, then we do dinner, and then go to the midnight. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. And he wasn't an exerciser. You know, I love the guy, but you know, that's called recipe for fatness. I can outline this for you, right? And you know, so anyway, if you know someone that does that, or in business, what are the beliefs that drive it? You know, if you're gonna have somebody wanna make more, you know, do better in their business, it's not just the behaviors that they do, right? It's what are the beliefs that drive that behavior, right? What are the beliefs that drive that behavior? And a lot of time, like I said, if they're picking a big model, someone that's written books or done videos, they usually kind of tell you what their beliefs are, right? If someone needs to make more sales, right, and they do like calls, right, it's easy to see a model of your, you know, someone that's good at telemarketing make the 100 or 200 calls a day, right? That's, I mean, you could see that in a movie in your mind and run it, right? But what are the beliefs that drive it? That they have to call. You know, when I ran that one addiction center, the guy also had this company that they had a telemarketing division for another business. And yeah, I was talking to a few of the successful telemarketers. And the one guy kind of summed it up, and he'd been there the longest, right? Because a lot of telemarketers come. So the guy that was doing that asked me to like, what's the difference? These guys come in, they're talented, they're skilled on the phone, and they're, you know. But his belief was he didn't want to, he had to make those 100 calls a day, right? Yeah, and as Bruce just flipped in there, you know, always be closing and all that, right? Whatever that belief set is, you know, coffee is for closers. You know, and this guy had set up all these little belief activities in his head that drove him to make the phone calls, right? Or whatever it is. I mean, whatever the behavior is, you know, what are the beliefs that drive it? Beliefs, attitudes, and values, right? So we can add that by adding it to like the new behavior generator. So you could do the new behavior generator, see your model do it, right? And also too, one thing, if you look at like Tony Robbins and some of the other people, right, that are successful, they usually have multiple models that bring different aspects to what they want. Again, I like that Tony article because it points 3 different things. You know, Jim Rohn doing the seminars, how to structure a seminar. You know, John Grinder on the physiology of being in a power state. And then Peter Gruber on telling emotional stories, right? I'm going to sum that up, right? So 3 different people that he brought into the genre, right? And so he had each one built on the behavior of being a better, speaker, right? So it's kind of cool, right? And I also know he added another person called Warner Earhart, right? Which was the guy that came up with EST, if anybody knows EST, the long seminars, controlling movement, right? It was back in the day, they literally locked you in the room, right? You had to, I mean, you could leave, but if you leave, you weren't allowed back, right? Everybody can make fun of that. It was very effective in the 70s, right? Well, Tony took some of that, right? Which was, you ever been to a Tony event? And our dear friend Tony, they start early. It mean back in the day, he used to do it all. Now he like comes in for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours of crack. But still, they start early in the day and they go very late. Right? They go 8, 10 hours before they give you a break to go eat. Now they tell you can bring food, and you see people that go to a lot of seminars, they have their little backpack to do that. But he's controlling your movements. Okay? Now I think he got that from Warner Earhart, right? And then of course when he's doing his upsells, it's always late at night. If you start at 8 in the morning and then it's now 10:30 at night, you're coming back the next morning at 8, right? Would you say you're in a receptive state? And he tells emotional stories late at night. And he does embedded commands, which he got from hypnotists, a little bit John Grinder, right? John Grinder liked embedded commands. He was very popular, in Grinder and Bandler, it's like, so if you've ever seen this, like, you're late, you're tired. Okay, take a deep breath, close your eyes. It's 10:30 at night. You've been there since 8 in the morning, right? And then people come out and go, he's a great hypnotist. No, your ass was tired. He's a good hypnotist, but you were tired, right? And then, he tells an emotional story, access the emotions. I mean, he was very good at taking all of these things we talked about, the Peter Gruber telling the emotional story, which, movies motivate you, adding in the beliefs, and then doing the behavior and giving direct commands. As you see yourself at the next seminar. As you see yourself at the next seminar. When you sign up for Mastery University. Right? It's like really kind of cool stuff. Well, he got all this from different people. Right? And so, but also another missing ingredient, right? We got, is these beliefs and attitudes, this part, right? We can add that. But what behavior, I'll say, do you need to eliminate? Right? Sometimes, to use the Michelangelo quote, it's the rock he took away that made the beautiful statues. Right? It wasn't adding more rock. But a lot of us, when we want to make a change, we want to model somebody, we're going to get the behavior, right? We want to add a behavior, right? Maybe it'll change the beliefs. But is there something that maybe that you need to give up, that maybe your model gave up? Right? I don't know. But sometimes it's, if somebody wants to get in really great shape and have six-pack abs, you could model doing the exercises. You could model the beliefs, the attitudes, and the values, right, of doing all that. But one behavior, it might be you have to give up that late night dessert, right? Or whatever it is, you have to give something up. Sometimes it's the things you give up that change you more than the things you add. Oh, that makes sense to everybody? Okay. I mean, ask anybody in recovery from a substance abuse issue, giving it up was what defined them. And then some of the behaviors, then they might add going to meetings or therapy or doing all this other stuff. But sometimes, it's this is what you add, but sometimes what you remove, right? It might be the excuses, right? It might be the giving yourself the permission to fail, So, what do you need to add? Good, down here. But what does your model not do that you do? Right? So it's not just add those other things. Maybe you need to take away certain aspects, right? So that's the part that, I started adding this because I think it's very important. I don't think about it till someone else pointed it out, right? And so it's kind of, to me, it's kind of interesting. This makes sense to everybody. Right? Come and remove my pen. We could talk. I'm going to talk one more little thing, and then we'll do a technique. But some feedback. Does this make sense to everybody? What you add, a behavior that that's easy to model, like running the whatever it is. But what beliefs drive it, right? Somebody wants to run a marathon. Well, you could model running the marathon, but if you don't get the beliefs that you have to run the 100 miles a week, you're probably not going to do good at the marathon if you ever go, right? And if you don't remove the things that is, going to bed, staying up late so you don't have time to get up early to go do your run before work, whatever it happens to be. So, I think I know I have a tendency to overlook that. The only reason I started thinking about it again is I was doing some consulting stuff with addictions places. And it's like, oh yeah, it's the shit you don't do, like drink, smoke. So, feedback, somebody want to make a comment? Tough curve. No?
Yeah. I have a comment.
Yes.
I don't know if, and then this is just maybe a personal thing. I don't know if have to or must is language that I really resonate with. Like for exercise, I don't think I have to do it. I just do it. If that makes any sense. It's not really, I mean, I suppose in some sense I have to do it, but I just.
Well, that's just the language that but there's people that want to exercise. They know they feel good if they exercise, but they never exercise. And they'll say, I don't know why I don't. Anybody ever had this? If you chip it, I don't know why I don't. I feel so good when I'm leaving. It's not a must for them. No. You have kids or pets, must you feed your kids? They whine if you don't. Right? My dog gets mad at me. Right? Damn dog eats better than us. Anybody got pets? Anyway, so that's just the words I use, and so maybe and it becomes part of your.
So it makes me think about the fact that I've been meditating since I was in my 20s, and people say, well, why do you do this? And well, you talk about, having the beliefs line up with why you do something. Well, one of the things that inspired me was these old yogis and Buddhist guys are going, hey, next week at 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm going to have tea, cookies, and then I'm leaving. And there's many people on record doing this. And so people say, why do you keep doing this? I said, because I don't have that skill yet to tell you when I'm checking out. So I'm going to keep doing it.
That's a different mindset. I'm checking out next Friday at 7, at 4 o'clock. So yes, I'm going to Vegas. No.
So Doc, I got a question for you, man. So
Yes, yes.
So for the modeling for a person, right? So we model the behaviors, which is fine, but then you model their beliefs that they're actually thinking, or else the beliefs that to get your goal, or else are we modeling their belief system?
What beliefs drive them to do the behavior that you're trying to model?
Gotcha. And how do you find that out?
A lot of them, it depends on, who the model is. If someone's modeling someone that has a social media presence and written books, they're in there. You kind of have to dig them out, right? Or you could just, you could postulate what you think those beliefs are. Right? So that it's an open question.
Maybe you used it already, if so, I'm so saddened about it. Let's use your dear friend Tony Robbins. So I know that you broke down the seminars of Rome, the Grinder, the physiology. Then you focus on the story. Then the beliefs part, you didn't really hit on that part. So the beliefs part that he can do just anything that he can possibly do, or
yeah, and that you can do anything if you break it down into small enough steps.
gotcha. So if you chunk it, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
And he's an action guy.
That is.
But thinking,
like
taking action. Right? As I heard him say it it was on a video, he was doing something from one of his big seminars, and it was somebody needed to do something. And he said, well, if I do this right, you're not coming back this afternoon. You're going to go take action on these steps. Right? Which kind of was a really cool embedded command that, like, quit sitting, even though that's his livelihood, quit sitting in a seminar and actually go do something. Right?
He also seemed to focus on doing for others and giving more back. You know, his belief system was that, I guess, that he learned from his models himself, was that when you give more away, when you do more, when you listen more, you know, when you're actually offering more than you're trying to take, which it comes back to, you know, tenfold or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know, everybody, you know, you have to look at it, and then, you know, what beliefs and attitudes do you need to add? What beliefs and attitudes you need to get rid of? Right? Is there some beliefs and attitudes you might need to remove?
So it's interesting. I'm one of the ones that are addicted to exercising. It's the endorphins that just kick in. Yet and I'm a cyclist. So, you know, I go out cycling, I do my 15 miles, I'd be very happy. All of a sudden I started putting my rides onto something called Strava. And you start to see other people, guys doing 60 miles a day, 40 miles a day. So you start kicking up your ride and you start going to 23 miles a day. And then all of a sudden, it's like I realized I stopped going out as often as I did because I was afraid of, like, going out for a 16-mile ride of disappointing others. And I had to go, hold it a second. You know, you forgot your original reason of your love for it. And I had to start visualizing how I felt when I got off my bike, when I got back home, and, like, did that stretch. And it was just, and really what I started to do was I started to anchor. I started to, like, rub my thighs. So it was like before I went to sleep, I would, like, rub my thighs and think about my ride in the morning. I'd get up, I would just rub my thighs, and I was able to visualize the outcome that I wanted. So it put me back on track. So sometimes we think that we're going to disappoint ourselves. And even though we're going after the goal and the belief, etc., I had to like reprogram myself, I guess, for lack of another word.
Yes. Cool. That's leading into what I'm going to talk next. This makes sense. Yes, Miss Janice. You're muted, or you're I don't know if you're muted. We can't hear you. No.
I like that, Bruce. That made a lot of sense, you know, to be able to do some sort of anchoring and, you know.
Nope, still muted, Miss Janice. Cool. Goddamn technology, right?
Sign language of frustration. My headphones don't work. Let me unplug them. Let me see what happens.
Sounds like 2 words. Headphones. anyway, while she's getting it fixed, um,
That's weird.
well, it happens.
Here it is.
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So real quick, for me, I have to, I'm not a naturally sedentary person. I like to move my body, like in dancing and stuff, but exercise, the only really exercise I enjoy is walking. But how I link it is to what I love to do more than walking, which is to do a walking meditation. So I kind of link it to the meditation. So then it's not such a problem getting dressed and going out in the cold weather in New York and stuff. So
And it's the way our language represents, we're neurolinguistics, right? It's like there's a difference between, oh, I have to work out, and the old I get to work out. Right? There's a lot of people that would like to work out, they can't. Or whatever. So I get to work out.
plus I live in a stairmaster. I have 15 stairs up, 15 stairs down. So I'm running up and down all day anyway.
Well, let's add one more thing. Let me pin my, which is kind of goes with this. Which would be not just this, right? Your behavior, your beliefs, and all that. We need all that, right? And then what you have to take away, right? But again, and he got this from Jim Rohn, if we're going to use Tony Robbins, but we've heard it in other areas. It's, it's the, you've heard it said in general, right? It's the input, right, equals the output, right? So what are you putting in your head, right? Right? Reasons to work out, reasons to eat healthy, reasons to do other things. What's the input, right? So you got to control the input. That goes back to the thing you might have to give up, right? Like watching the news, right? Or anything that's negatively affecting you, right? So you gotta watch that. And then also he kind of got this from Jim Rohn, which is, your circle of people that you let influence you, right? Or other words, the people you hang out with, right? People you hang out with. I mean, it was Jim Rohn said, I think he was the first one that I could find that said about if I know you're the 5 people you hang out with the most, and we know what their income is, levels, you fall in that parameter somewhere. With and I heard him say later toward the end, unless there's like a one-off, like somebody that just happens to be super wealthy. But I mean, it's that average, right? And this is true with other things. People that like to exercise generally hang out with people that like to exercise, right? Because they're doing active things, right? So who's around you, right? And this again might go to things you have to remove, right? What do they say in business? Sometimes it's not who you hire, it's who you don't fire. You're running a business, it's the people you keep that like maybe you shouldn't keep, right? So there may be people in your life that you need to remove, right?
In progress.
So I'm getting feedback. Whoever just came in, make sure you mute yourself. Thank you. So yeah, are there people you have to remove? Right? And again, if you want to eat healthy, I don't think you can hang out with people that constantly want to eat junk food. They're it's just right. And I default, this goes back to a lot of what I do because it was my first therapeutic intervention. And my first, if you want to call it clinical specialty, right? Which is addictions. This is part of the big key of it, you know? As they say in the 12-step world, you know, who are your playmates? Right? And what are your playpens? Right? I don't know. And I'll just make the statement, I've personally never seen, it could be perceptual blindness or a selective blindness, by the way, but I've never seen someone that truly had a drinking problem just stop drinking and still like hang around the bars constantly. Right? It's just, I've never seen it. I've heard hypnotists talk that they've had that success, but you know, with clients, but you know, what's your longitudinal study? And again, who are you hanging out with? If you're hanging around a lot of people that are partying in places where they party, it's a lot easier to do that behavior. Right? So you need new playmates and new playpens, right? And again, maybe it's removing some of those people from your life, including sometimes family members. Right? I know in this world of people that become personal coaches and NLPers and hypnotists, even if you didn't totally cut them out of your life, there were probably people you had to quit that were in your family that you just like, I don't want to listen to about this, you know, because why are you giving up this? You know, go get a real job. Or, you know, my friends that are actors talk about that. You know, the one guy I know that I've met him a few times, working actor, he pops up. I just saw him on a movie last night from the 90s, right? And he goes, the funny part was for 15 years, his family just made fun of him. You know, being a freaking loser, going out to LA, trying to be an actor, yada, yada, yada. Till he gets in some big movies. And suddenly they all want to be his buddy. You know, can you get my nephew a yeah, no, you know, he needs to like go learn how to. Well, he goes, you know, he had to cut them out because all of them said, you know, he couldn't make it. So maybe there's people you have to remove as well as people you can add. You know? And of course, the advantage we have is in this day and age, we can have a virtual new cycle or circle of people who influence because our minds don't know the difference between a real or a vividly imagined event. Right? I mean, that's one of the bedrocks of hypnosis. Your mind doesn't know the difference. Right? Why you'll have your heart will race and you'll be sweating if you're having a nightmare. Your body's reacting as if it's real. So since your mind doesn't know the difference, what if, at least in some area of your life, you get a virtual group of friends who are doing what you want with the bad behaviors and the beliefs and that. So, you know, so these become your mentors. Right? Now, I would suggest if you could find a true mentor and hang out with them, that would be great. But you can also add some other virtual mentors. Right? That can be in who's your circle of influence, right? So, you know, what are their, and that's the people you want to impress, right? Or a lot of the people that are usually high achievers, at least I've noticed, maybe again, it's my perceptual blindness, they usually encourage other people to be successful, right? Because maybe they have that fundamental belief that your success does not damage me. You know, everyone here we could all write a book on weight loss or whatever. It's not going to stop you from selling thousands or hundreds of thousands of your book, right? It's the difference between a competitive mindset and a cooperative mindset, right? Because again, when you look at like some of those big speaker type, they seem to hang out together, right? And just because, you know, the one I was at the Date with Destiny, I think the second one I went to, Brandon Burchard, and a few other bigger names in motivational, they were there, right? Hanging out. And by the way, they weren't comped in. Right? That's another Tony belief. If you're, even those, if you ever go to that, especially Date with Destiny, if Dr. John's still in here, you always have that celebrity thing in front at a Tony event, right? And he does not comp anyone in. When Oprah went, she paid, right? And somebody I know that worked for him said, well, they were, why? They were surprised that he didn't comp her in. He's like, well, shit, she could afford it. She owns 27 damn mansions across the world. She could pony up 10 grand for a damn seminar, right? And he wouldn't take her, and I heard for that kind of thought too was Anthony Hopkins, when he went to the thing in Australia, he was impressed because they didn't comp him in. He's Anthony Hopkins. It's like Oprah. It's like, if you're into that world, that it's like, so that's a belief set he has, So anyway, who's your virtual group that you could create if you don't have one around you, right? So it's the things you add, the behaviors, the attitudes, the beliefs, right? The things you remove, some of the behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs, that's the second, that part of it. So you're adding as well as subtracting. And then you need to get a circle of influence that will support whatever change that you're making. Whatever that change is. All right, I'll leave the recording on. Does this make sense to everybody? Oh, quiet group.
I have a question about, I think that if somebody gives up alcohol, because my husband owned a bar, a cabaret restaurant bar, we were there, he worked from 8 in the morning till 2 in the, 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 at, after midnight. And I don't think that some people who have a true addiction is different than somebody who's drinking because they're bored or somebody's buying them a drink. Because with my husband at the time, because he was the owner, people would buy him a drink, try to impress him, and he got into a bad habit, but he was able to give it up even while owning a bar. So I think there's a difference between an addiction, somebody with a true addiction, somebody who's just bored and drinking or tired and drinking, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but that's why I go crazy in the hypnosis world where these people go, no, anyone, one session, I can get them, and then they can go to the bar. It's like, well,
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think he had an addiction because he was able.
Well, it's the genetic. There's people that could go to Dunkin' Donuts every day and have 3 donuts, and they will never become diabetic.
Yeah.
And then there's others, they do that 3 days a week, a couple years, they're on the insulin shot for the rest of it.
Right. But that is true. So a true addiction is different than somebody just, bored and drinking because they're working so many hours. And actually what he did is he went to acupuncture and he gave them.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he was addicted because he gave it up. It's not an addiction. It wasn't like, it was not important enough. His work.
And I'll make a cold statement on the other side. There may be a cousin somewhere that drank himself to death because, well, he did it. I should be able to do that.
Actually,
that's like the old everyone that does smoking. They get the guy, well, my uncle smoked till the day he died and he was fine. Or he just crumpled up the cigarettes and threw them down. Well, good luck. Maybe that's different.
Yeah. I think there has to be like difference, We have to look for that though in hypnosis because we're not trained for addictions, and a lot of us. So we have to really define our expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then, and it's just, that's a different mindset. So cool. Anyone else? So who's going to be your virtual group? I'm going to So just think about that. I do have let me pin my video. I want to close. My mentor, one of my mentors, been yelling at me. Always close with a call to action, right? Make sure that, if you're not already a member of the National Federation of Neurolinguistic Programming Facebook group, it's an open group, but you do have to ask questions to get in, to stop the spammers from coming in. Make sure you join that group and there's a hypnosis group. So join those so we can constantly put things in. I have classes coming up constantly. Go to drwillhorton.com. There's a list of classes depending when you're watching this, when this is being recorded. My next one is the Memorial Day weekend, the 27th, 28th. One day I'm doing Summon Your Hidden Psychic Abilities. And then the next day I'm doing Hypnotic
Wow.
storytelling. And they kind of go together. So,
Wow.
good storyteller has good intuition. Right. So anyway, that's that. So there'll be a link below wherever you're watching this if you want to go check it out, drwillhorton.com, and I'll see you soon.